Okay, as you've just seen, we've just completed the FMC pre-flight actions all the way through legs. After we got done with the legs now we have to look at programming and getting the aircraft ready to fly the Atlanta 9 departure. So we need to go and look at the Atlanta 9 departure SID, which is Standard Instrument Departure, and we need to talk about some of those components on there that we need to address and putting that into the mode control panel itself. As we look at this departure SID using the Atlanta 9 departure, we're going to be departing today off of runway 27 left. Now, if you'll notice on this particular graphic on the AeroWings program that the aircraft is currently lined up, we have it in a compass rose mode, and the heading is 095. So we're taking off toward the east. So what we need to do is we're going to do a little change here. And how are we going to do it? We're going to reposition the airplane first to runway 27 left in Atlanta. So we have to go down on this menu, and we have to pull up the client instructor. It says situation and then position. Once we have that, let me go ahead and center that to Word a little bit more for you. We'll go down here to aircraft position. We're going to highlight this, and then we're going to hit the backspace and then simply type in KATL and enter. And once we enter, we now get a new sub-menu that says, okay, we're looking at this and saying, what do we want to do? Well, we want to depart out of Atlanta today on 27 left. So we need to go down and find runway 27 left, which is right here, and find the position we wanted to utilize. So that would be takeoff right here. So I'm going to go ahead and select takeoff in just a moment, but I want to let you watch at the same time when I select it what happens to this compass rose. You'll actually see it rotate around to the 27 heading. 275 as a matter of fact, which is the runway heading in this particular case. So we can now close these up by hitting the word close, and then we'll reduce it with the little minus sign up in the corner to get rid of the instructor's menu, if you will. Now that I've got that in there, I also want to go ahead and take this compass rose, and I want to move it into this is the 360 view. I'm going to move it to the 120 view, or 120 degrees of view, by simply pushing up on the the nav data control panel, pushing the word CTR. When I push CTR, it's going to give me that 120 degree mode, which is better for me because now I got better situational awareness. I know I'm lined up on 27. I see 275. The head of my aircraft is right here on the runway. It says 9 left. The red magenta line tells me I'm going down to my very first fix, which is in this case South 2 after departure. All right, now on your FMC, you should have South 2 in here because when you initially put it in, it said runway heading to 1,400 feet, vectors, Atlanta, and then South 2. That is what is initially going to appear for you. But what you really want to do here, since you don't want to be redundant and take off, go 1,400 feet, wrap the airplane around, and come back over Atlanta, that's not how that's going to work. In real life operations, you've got your first fix that you're going to be going to in this case, which is South 2 on this Standard Instrument departure. So we're going to get that programmed in so when Atlanta says, hey, go direct to South 2, you're going to be prepared to just do that. All right, so let's go back on track here and look at this Atlanta 9 departure. So we've got the runway heading put in as per the graphic. It says off of 27 left, 27 right. You can actually see it down there in the initial climb. It says climb on a heading of 275. And it says for jets, the top altitude is 10,000 feet. So mode control panel says 10,000 feet. We know that's good already. So 10,000, 275, we met that criteria. There's the 275 heading here on the mode control panel also. We want that to be utilized. In addition, we have the 153, which is our V2 speed. We don't got to worry about that. It's just a reference speed. We're already in LNAV. We're already in VNAV. So we're ready for the aircraft for departure. What other things should we look at on this Atlanta 9 departure? If we were to get a noise abatement climb, a noise abatement departure, it'd be a 0 wind condition. We're going to assume today that there is wind. Otherwise, you would look up in the left corner where it says noise abatement departures tracks, and you utilize those headings for your departure track in the event that you were given one. So please, by all means, read these departure SIDs. It's extremely important that you read every note on there, including the one up on the top right corner where it says number 4, turbojets. Accelerate to 250 knots immediately after reaching 10,000 feet. If unable, advise air traffic control. So when in a jet, you're going to get to 250 very quickly. So we're just going to maintain 250 knots until we get up right to 10,000 feet. Now, if you go to our VNAV page on the FMC, you'll notice also that it's now still telling me I'm going to have a 250 knot speed till I get to 10,000 feet. So we know it's going to do it. In the VNAV position on the mode control panel, LNAV and VNAV selected, it's going to laterally navigate to our fix. It's also going to use our speeds that we have selected in the FMC to climb at those speeds. I'm going back to legs page now. So again, let's review what we're going to do after we depart from Atlanta. We're going to fly the 275 heading. So as I've indicated before, after takeoff, V1, rotate, pause rate climb, get the gear up. There's V2, start flap retraction on schedule at 400 feet. Center command on the autopilot. In this case, since you've got to fly the 275 heading, you're going to push the heading select button right underneath the 275. There's an SCL button there. Push that in. It will then at that point command the aircraft to fly at 275 degrees on the heading. Now, it will also at the same time kick off or eliminate LNAV. The light will go out because you've chosen to utilize heading select. That's a normal indication. VNAV, however, will still remain lit, giving you that speed control. So let's see how this happens. If you notice also, the parking brake is on. Upper left-hand side, we've got little purple bars up there. To release, push the space bar. You'll see the brakes now coming off. I'll then hover to the right side of the throttle quadrant, increase those, hit the toga button. At that point, thrust ref will come up. The thrust levers do come up to the EPR setting that's required. We have ground speed rolling right now. We now have rolling also on the airspeed indicator on the airspeed tape. All we simply do now is follow the commands of V1, VR, V2. That happens pretty fast. Here we're coming up on V1. There's VR. I'll rotate the aircraft somewhere around 10 degrees or so. Positive rate of climb is called. We get the gear up. That is hitting the T5 button twice on your command, on your throttle quadrant, or correction, on your stick quadrant. And we get to 400 feet, coming at 270, 290, 300, coming up on 400. Center command, heading select. Yes, you're going to have a little bit of a turn there because it was an LNAV initially, but we said, oh, nope, we want 275. So now we've got the 275 selected. It is in heading select. It's flying the 275 heading. It is climbing to 10,000 feet. My flaps should be in retraction mode. There's flaps to 5. I'm bringing them up now. I'll show a number 1. I'm above 1, so I can go now to the flaps up speed. There's up. We're already getting up onto that point right now. So when this says up, I will then hit the last remaining up switch on T1, again on the stick control. And that will then take me to 250 knots. As you see indicated right here, we have the magenta marker showing 250 knots as commanded on the VNAV page, okay, as we climb 250 knots to 10,000 feet. We're back into legs now. So 275, the aircraft is flying 275, 276. I'm good enough. I'm fine with that. Climbing to 10,000 feet, 10,000, 275, 275, 10,000. All cross checks, all is good. VNAV is in control. 250 knots commanded, 250 knots on the airspeed, 250 knots on the VNAV page is indicated. Everything is in alignment. We're exactly where we need to be. I'm going to go back to legs page now. And I would like us to now proceed and go direct to South 2. Okay, going direct to South 2. Atlanta says, okay, you go on heavy. I want you to go ahead and turn left. And let's make that left turn now a heading of, let's make it 170 degrees. 170 degrees is fine. Notice I had the heading to 170 up here. Notice the aircraft's in the turn. Why? Because I'm already in heading select. The aircraft will turn for us to 170. I'm already through 9,200. I should be monitoring my altitude. The aircraft is now starting to level off at 10,000 feet, which is exactly what we wanted to do according to the SID. So that's all good. So I'm going to turn down to 190, or correction, 170. I'm going to open up my scale here and see where is South 2. Let's see, it's not on the 80. Oh, yes, it is. There's South 2. Let's go back a little bit so we can have a better look at it. There's South 2. You can see the dashed line that I have here. This is your actual course, the magenta. The dashed course line is what represents your heading, select, or the lever line that you've put in there, 170, 170, 170. That lines up. So now I'm on a pretty good path here to intercept and go direct to South 2. So how am I going to go direct to South 2? All right, well, I can do this a number of ways. Let's go ahead and select LNAV up here on top above the VNAV. And as soon as it says that, as soon as you push it, it says, not on an intercept heading. Well, you kind of are, all right? You're not exactly there yet. So I'm just going to clear that off the scratch pad, all right? And with LNAV on, I'm going to just double push on LSK 1 left. Click, click, and my execute light will come on. I will then execute it. And now the airplane is going to go direct to South 2. You can actually see it correcting to go over to that first fix after departure, okay? Let's continue our climb now to flight level 230. And the clear should be something along the lines of Eagle 1 Heavy, climb, maintain flight level 230, contact departure control. Have a good day. Eagle 1 Heavy, roger, climb to flight level 230, contact departure. Have a good day, sir. You tell them that, and you say you dial up 230 in the altitude. I want to maintain my speed at 250 knots as directed. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to push this big white knob because I can either rotate it or push it. I'm now going to push it, which is called altitude intervention. It tells me VNAV speed. I start a climb, and it's going to keep me at the speed I requested. In this case, VNAV speed above 10 is what? 300 knots, correct? There it is. I'm above 10,000 feet. The restriction of 250 is lifted. 300 is there. 300 is here. The aircraft is already accelerated to 300 knots. And I'm already on my way up to flight level 230. Climbing, on speed, LNAV and VNAV are selected. Altitude in the MCP window matches that of what is required that I wanted to do. So the aircraft is going to climb to 23,000 feet. If you notice here on VNAV, I've done nothing. VNAV, I'm telling you, it says my cruise altitude is 39,000 feet. Let's change that value. I don't want to go that high today to Miami. It might be because there might be turbulence up there. You know, maybe icing conditions or something along those lines. And I don't want to fly at that altitude. It is my discretion, it is my choice as captain to make that decision whether or not I'd like to go that high. Yeah, there's going to be more of a fuel burn, certainly if I go lower. But I'd rather have the fuel burn than have a rough ride for my customers. So let's go ahead and make this flight level today, flight level 330. I'll simply type in 330 in the scratch pad, push LSK 1 left. My altitude is now 33,000 feet, and I will execute that, and that will show as the final altitude today for our flight down to Miami. Notice as soon as I've done that, the predicted top of climb, T/C, appears after my first fix here at South 2. So that being stated, let's go ahead and say we're going to continue our climb now after we've talked to center. They've climbed us to 330. I'm going to go ahead and maintain flight level 330 by rolling up on the MCP to 33,000 feet. This 330 matches the 330, matches the 330 in the FMC. So the airplane will now go to 33,000 feet. Keeping an eye on the altitude again, as we get to 18,000 feet, the calls, as we would say, are going to be 9s and 2s. We're setting standard atmosphere 2992. Here's 18,000 feet. We're now currently in hectopascals. Let's change that to inches for this country. There's inches, 2989 set. Let's go ahead and push the STD button. I will get a green STD down here indicating I am in standard atmosphere. All is right with the world now. Climbing up to 33,000 feet, going direct to South 2. Everything is fine. So now that we've done that, let's say that it's not too busy on air traffic control today, and they're going to give us to go direct to Seminole. And that would be Sierra Zulu Whiskey, that's the identifier. All right, so let's go direct to Seminole today. It's not on my ND, I don't see it anywhere on my, I can see South 2. So I'm going to take my scale and expand it out. There's 160 miles. I don't see it yet. There's 320. Oh, there it is. It's about 160 miles, just inside 160 miles away from me right now. I should be able to get it on the 160 mile marker, but range, but it's just out of range for me, so I'm going to get it on the 320. So I'll just do that. So let's go direct to Seminole. By doing so, I will select Seminole SZW, move it up to line select key 1 left, see the dashed lines, execute. The airplane is now going to make a right turn and head down to Seminole VOR, which is along my route of flight. Notice the airplane's in a right turn. I'm still climbing. I'm still at 300 knots as per the FMC. We keep checking all these things. VNAV page, 300, yep, 300, 300, it's all good. It's all good. All right, let's go ahead and make our first waypoint. And what we'll do then on our next segment is we're going to discuss how we can go ahead and make waypoints. Again, I'll show you quickly how to do it. And in the next segment, we will show you how we can make those restrictions and utilize those waypoints for restrictions in airspeed and altitude. Right now, we're showing from the Seminole VOR 153 nautical miles. So let's just say I wanted to put a new waypoint in prior to Seminole. Let's say air traffic control has given me a clearance, say they'll say Eagle 1 Heavy, cross a point 50 miles prior to Seminole at a speed and an altitude. The first thing I've got to do is I've got to create that new waypoint. So how do I do that? I will select SZW, LSK1 left. It moves it down to my scratch pad. Now I've got to tell it where I want it to create this new waypoint by the following format. Using a /, the plus minus key, I will push it once, getting the minus sign, and then pushing the distance 50. I will then be able to get that distance 50 miles prior to. The minus 50 tells me to make it before the fix I'm utilizing as the anchor point. So I will then put this data that I've just typed in, and I will put it on LSK1 left. And the aircraft, or the FMC, intuitively knows to put that prior to SZW because I've asked for it prior to with that minus sign. So there's SZW01. There's SZW01 on my nav display. I will then execute that. We've just created our first waypoint. The number significance of 01, the next one I create will be 02, 03, 04. It just sequentially gives them to you as you enter them. There is no rhyme or reason. There's no formula for it. That's how it creates it, one at a time. If you create 50 of them, it'll say SZW 50. That's just how it's working, okay? So what we've done now is we've programmed our SID. We've flown our SID. We've restricted the aircraft in speed. We've restricted in terms of what altitudes we've done with flying, with the different altitudes we've gone to. But we've done it all in the auspices of the SID itself, and we've created our first waypoint. Our next segment is going to talk about just that, making these waypoints, and then at that point restricting those waypoints for speed and altitude, and that'll be the next time we get together. That ends this lesson.